If you were to ask me what the Charlotte Hornets should do at number 2 and what would absolutely make the most sense, it honestly would be drafting Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller will fill a need for this team with his 3-point shooting ability and also just being a wing player, because the Charlotte Hornets don't have that many players at wing. Right now we have kind of PJ Washington, who's a restricted free agent, Miles Bridges, who's I think is a restricted free agent, Kelly Oubre is a free agent, and Gordon Hayward is on the last year of his deal, and he really can't remain healthy. So Brandon Miller could come in and make an immediate impact on his team, standing at 6'9", and like I said, great shooting ability, not to mention his ability to play make, and you would project him to be a great defender at the NBA level. There are some concerns with Brandon Miller's game, but overall, when you look at everything he does, you just can't ignore it. You can't ignore how good of a player he would be on this team, especially with LaMelo Ball in pick and pop situations. That's something he did a lot at Alabama. Even I would even throw in Miles Bridges with that. You run a pick and roll with Miles Bridges, the team has to honor the way Miles Bridges is able to attack the basket. Miles Bridges is one of the best players to get to the rim in the league. Well, he's not technically in the league, but you get the point. So then he also has, decent playmaking ability where he can get it to Brandon Miller at the 3-point line, and that's cash. Now, I know you could say something about how he performed in the tournament, because that's something I say. He did not perform in the tournament well when he wasn't scoring. There really wasn't much else he was doing at the time. I mean, he was getting rebounds, but at 6'9", I mean, who doesn't? And then also, I think he was doing a good job of getting to the foul line, which is something he hasn't really shown before. But I will say, to a certain point into the season, I want to say after January, I think Brandon Miller did a pretty good job of being able to show that he can finish around the rim, because at the beginning of the season for college basketball, he really struggled. He could not at all finish at the rim. But as time went on, he got better. And that's something you want to see. And that's something we didn't quite see with Scoot Henderson. You saw him use new moves. You saw Scoot Henderson do different things, but it didn't show necessarily the growth in his game. It just showed how good he is, which is very good, I might add. But then you look at Brandon Miller, you saw him in one season go from this guy, this timid wing catch and shoot player, to this guy who can really take over the game and really be the lead offense for a team. You look at the game where, with controversy, I may add, he dropped 41 points. 41 points, and it was a good 41 at that. So Brandon Miller is someone that the Charlotte Hornets should look at. I am not mad at people who want to get Brandon Miller. I'm not mad at people who want to get Scoot Henderson. I think Brandon Miller is a very talented player, and I would not be upset with the Charlotte Hornets getting him. He does need, I feel like, need to add a little weight. He's a little lanky. I don't really see the Paul George comparison. I think Paul George was just more of a athletic, aggressive player. That's kind of how I feel about that. I can see it. He's Paul George now. I wouldn't compare him to Paul George when Paul George first came into the league, or in days where he was really good with the Pacers. I wouldn't do that, but I will say that I can see it. He's more so Paul George now. I've seen Danny Granger to an extent, like a really great Danny Granger. It's not really saying they he has the talent of Danny Granger. It's just he has the skill set. He plays like Danny Granger. So, and there's other players as well. I mean, you know how these things go with the NBA draft, but Brandon Miller, I think, is a great prospect. I mean, you can't deny just the sheer size is something that Scoot Henderson wouldn't be able to provide for this team, and it's something that we desperately need. The problem becomes with the team. Okay, if you pay PJ, do you bring PJ off the bench? You just paid him, but do you want to bring him off the bench? Or do you want to bring your number 2 overall pick, Brandon Miller, off the bench? That's something they had to think about. Overall, when you look at the player, Brandon Miller is an excellent player. I think a lot of teams will love to have a Brandon Miller on the team, and the Charlotte Hornets have a chance to make that decision. For what exactly the Charlotte Hornets need, Brandon Miller is the right choice.